And now, it's BoomerLife, lifestyle discussion designed to make your life more engaging, meaningful, and complete. Celebrating the baby boomer generation, this is BoomerLife on CIL 650.
SleepShop. And welcome to the show. It's great that you're with us here on CL 650. We have our resident sleep expert here, Farooq Manji from SleepShop, your sleep experts, and they have a brand new location. Here we are, the first day of April. Do you say Happy April Fool's Day? I'm not sure. But here it is, April 1, and just in a few weeks, you're having, Farooq, your grand opening of your new store in North Vancouver. So you've had a soft opening, and this is a big deal coming up, right?
Yeah, it's the newest addition to our SleepShop family, which will be now our 5th location. Mm-hmm. We were opening it up in North Vancouver.
So you have West Broadway, you have Richmond, you have Langley, you have Abbotsford, and now North Vancouver.
Yes.
All right. Well, that's very exciting. So what's happening at the grand opening?
Well, we're gearing up. Mm-hmm. As you've mentioned already, the store's been open now for a couple of weeks, mm-hmm. and we've now got everything set up. We've got all our product line in. What's really interesting is the way in which we give the customer their experience as they come into the store, mm-hmm. and how we fit them into the right pillow. We've got a great selection of different types of mattresses, something a little more unique than we have in our other locations. So the grand opening is set. We're going to have some amazing giveaways on that weekend of April 22nd, but we do have some specials now, so that doesn't stop people from coming in.
Always selling, right? That's good. Now, you've formed some relationships in North Vancouver already. So one is the North Shore Stress and Anxiety Clinic. So how did you meet our guests that are coming up in a moment? How did you meet them?
Well, that introduction was made through on my volunteering work within the Smiley community. I met Michelle, and we're working on some program endeavors there. And through that, she had referred me to both Sarah and Kristen, who we'll hear from today.
All right. Well, let's introduce our guests. We have Dr. Sarah Knuth, and we have Dr. Kristen Buer here from the North Shore Stress and Anxiety Clinic. Welcome to the show.
Oh, thanks for having us. Great to be here.
Yeah, all right. So we're going to get into a very, very interesting topic here because, you can correct me, but I hear more about stress and anxiety in the last 5 years than I've heard in all of my other years. It seems to be something that's really come to the forefront. Is there more stress and anxiety, or are we just hearing about it more? Either of you can jump in on that one.
Well, I think it's probably a mixture of things, and it's hard to tell, but we suspect that what's happening is that people are more aware of stress and anxiety, and there's better education and information. And so people are getting better at recognizing when they're suffering from things like stress, anxiety, associated things like the sleep problems we're going to talk about today. And so I think more people are reaching out for resources and getting help if they need it.
All right, so I guess I should do the formal introduction here. Dr. Kristen Buer is a registered psychologist and director of North Shore Stress and Anxiety Clinic. She specializes in the assessment, treatment of anxiety and mood difficulties in adolescents and adults, training and expertise in evidence-based approaches for testing general anxiety disorders, panic disorder, health anxiety, insomnia, which is important for us here today, stress-related problems and depression. And Dr. Sarah Knuth is a registered psychologist and director of North Shore Stress and Anxiety Clinic. She specializes in providing evidence-based therapy, management of anxiety, worry, panic, depression, sleep problems, stress-related health issues. So you are the perfect people to have on our show here today. So thank you for being on the show. So I'm going to throw it out generally because we have Farooq here from SleepShop. Why is sleep so important? We've heard this our whole lives, and sometimes at stages in our life we ignore it. We work too long. We go to bed too late. Why is it so important? What happens when we sleep?
Well, sleep is extremely important. We know that we need a good night's sleep to restore our energy. We know that sleep helps us have better mood. It helps our ability to focus on things, our concentration, our memory. And when we're kind of thinking clearly, that helps with our performance, right? We also know that getting a good night's sleep is highly related to our emotional wellness and even our physical health. So it's really important.
Mm-hmm. And any other things you can comment on why it's important?
Well, I think adding to the physical health, there's, continuing to be increased evidence looking at the ways in which sleep is critical for physical health. And some of the examples are things like improved immunity, We know that actually sleep is now being shown to be associated with making it easier to maintain a healthy weight and shape, and that in and of itself can also be really important for other health-related issues like diabetes, high blood pressure, heart-related issues. And so taken together, I think it's very difficult to maximize our physical and mental health if we're not getting a good night's sleep. And I think if you talk to anyone who is really struggling with having sleep problems on a regular basis, they're going to let you know that they're really struggling to maintain their overall wellness. It's one of those core building blocks of wellness.
And you mentioned at the beginning about how common stress can be. And I think if you're not getting a good night's sleep, it's really hard to kind of deal with the daily hassles of life, with stressors that pop up. And so we know if you're getting that restorative sleep, you are in a better place to manage that stress, which, of course, stress can have a huge impact on our physical health.
It's interesting because we host many different shows here on CL. One of them is a doctor of dentistry in North Vancouver, the Snore dentist. You might know of Dr. Charnel Muir. She's in North Vancouver, and she deals with sleep apnea. And a big part of our whole practice is getting people to breathe properly so they sleep better. So that's a big part of what you're talking about, and all of the same triggers that you just mentioned. Not triggers, but outcomes. Higher blood pressure, obesity, all of those things are a result of the fact that you're not sleeping well through maybe not breathing properly, but that doesn't have to be just breathing. It's just sleep generally is what you're saying.
Yeah. And there can be a huge range of factors that we'll be able to get into that can be possible reasons why people are struggling with sleep.
All right. So how much sleep do you need? What's the magic number?
Well, each person is different. I think that's a really important thing to realize. I think a lot of people get stuck on this idea that I have to have 8 hours of sleep. And some people definitely need more, and some people need less. But not everyone needs 8. That's kind of the average, but you really have to pay attention to what your body kind of needs.
Now, what about napping? Is napping good for you? Because there's a joke I tell. I was getting on a plane one time, and I was talking to a colleague of mine sitting next to me on the plane who can't sleep. He says he only sleeps about 3-4 hours a night. So he reads like dozens of novels a month, right? And I said, I love a nap. And the guy behind me, without missing a beat on the plane, said, hey, it's not a nap. It's called man rest. So I like me my man rest in the afternoon. So is that good or bad?
Well, I think like a lot of the strategies we'll be talking about today, it really depends on the individual person. And so there's certainly a lot of people who are sleeping really well at night, and they can have occasional naps, and it doesn't disrupt their sleep or what we would refer to as your sleep drive. And this is what builds up during the day and is associated with your ability to fall asleep and stay asleep. And unfortunately, there's a number of us where when we start doing naps, it actually resets our sleep drive. It confuses our body. Our body doesn't know what's going on, and it can reset our sleep drive back to zero, or it can lower it enough that by the time the evening hours come around, when we would typically be wanting to start really feeling that drowsiness that's part of that sleep drive, the nap has reset that. And so many people with sleep problems are napping to try to compensate for their sleep problems, not realizing that those naps are actually really aggravating the problem. So if you're not currently having sleep problems and you're enjoying an occasional nap, you go for it, enjoy it. But if you are having significant, frequent, and regular sleep problems, then cutting out naps is actually one of the strategies that we often recommend starting with.
So feel free to integrate that into your practice, man rest. If you want to put that, one. You like that one? Okay. So does it change as you age? Like I've got kids that are 14 and 12. Are they supposed to sleep longer hours?
Yeah, that's a great question. I mean, what we do know is age does matter. So we definitely know that newborns need a lot more sleep. You're talking about needing between 14 and 17 hours. Preschoolers and toddlers will need more. School-age children definitely need more than adults. But as we age, we do need less and less until we hit adulthood. And as adults, we really need between kind of 7 and 9 hours of sleep. And I think there's a bit of a myth that as we get even older, so kind of to our 60s and beyond, that we need less sleep. And the reality is that our basic sleep needs do remain the same across adulthood. So adults definitely need less than teenagers, and teenagers need less than little kids. but adults across adulthood need basically the same amount of hours.
And kids in puberty just sleep 20 hours a day?
Teenagers do need a lot of sleep. Their bodies are constantly changing. They're going through hormonal things. You actually kind of feel bad for teenagers because they do need a lot of sleep. And teenagers naturally kind of have a biological clock where they feel like they get tired later at night and want to sleep in, but they have to get up for school. So you have a lot of, I think, overtired teenagers because they're not getting enough sleep.
Now, relating this back to anxiety and stress with teenagers on their electronic devices, not going to bed on time, staying up later than everybody else in the house, not getting enough rest, do you see a spike in stress and anxiety in younger ages due to electronics?
I think we see the issue of electronics can come into play with anyone of any age, and I think there's a lot of us as adults that we are no different. We are on our smartphones, we're Facebooking, we're watching Netflix on our laptops, and I think that regardless of the age that you're at, what we do know is that these electronic devices emit a blue light spectrum that's not visible to the eye, but really, really interferes with that sleep drive. It gets your arousal levels up, and it makes it very difficult for your brain to cooperate with your body and get drowsy and be able to fall asleep. And certainly I think a lot of people who are feeling stressed and anxious, we can be more vulnerable to coping by trying to use those devices to distract ourselves, or the second we have difficulty falling asleep, we reach for that phone and we're lying in bed and we're back on those devices. So we see people of all ages who are struggling with their relationship with their electronic devices and how that interacts with stress, anxiety, and sleep.
Now, you mentioned the blue light, and there's a spectrum of light, and a lot of people are not aware of that. I know because I do video production, and white balance and the kind of light you have is very important. So blue light is closely associated with daylight, am I right?
Yeah, it serves the same function as telling our brains it's time to wake up. Mm-hmm. And so what we do know is it operates on the arousal centers of the brain and goes against what we're wanting to have happen at night, where our body is tired, the sleep drive is kicking in, there's hormonal changes that are happening that all work towards the sleep drive. And then along comes this blue light, and it seems capable of overriding the sleep drive in a lot of individuals.
Now, is there a better light to be in at night? I just know that incandescent lights put off more of a yellow hue.
It is. So like kind of like an orange or even a red. Any of those kind of like softer lights, I think, are really important. So, at nighttime, I think it is really important that you're turning off those bright lights. If you have any type of fluorescent lights, that you're dimming those and using some type of soft light, so that you're cueing your brain that it's actually time to go to bed. Whereas the opposite can be helpful in the morning. Putting on bright lights, opening up opening up shades so that you can kind of get the light in, that actually cues your brain that it's time to wake up, which is really important.
And it ties in with some of the hormone cycles too. We know that the natural production of melatonin is tied in with it becoming dark, and so there's a lot of different ways that we can set up the environment around ourselves in the evening, especially to maximize that sleep drive and minimize the things that are going to interfere with feeling drowsy and being able to fall asleep and stay asleep.
You're hearing the voices of Dr. Kristen Buer and, Dr. Sarah Newth from the North Shore Stress and Anxiety Clinic. Excuse me, I got a frog in my throat. Can you help with that? I just called you Dr. Farouk Manji. He got an upgrade. Farouk Manji is here from SleepShop. He's our sleep expert. Thanks to our two doctors. We're going to come back. We've talked about why sleep is important, how much sleep you need, and your age, and using electronics before you go to bed. When we come back, we're going to find out, how do you know if you have a sleep problem or if you're just going through a stage where you're having a bit of restless sleep. We'll find out more next on CL 650.
Celebrating the baby boomer lifestyle. This is Boomer Life on CL 650.